talk you through it first, because let's just tell people what this is about.
Okay.
Doing, so they got a picture. So I only met you very, very briefly when we did a Blab chat with Mike a couple of weeks ago, and we suggested that we would do a long distance healing for you.
Right, exactly.
So that we could share with people how a long distance healing is done.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to make sure everyone's clear, Mike is Mike Warren from Alternative Health Concepts, and he does a weekly Blab, and you were his guest last Tuesday morning, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah. And so at the end of that chat, you came in, and then we came up with the bright idea of taking it a step further and doing a long distance healing. Although you said you didn't really have any serious agenda, you do, after sort of a little bit of questioning, have a couple of concerns in your life, and you were prepared to go on air as the guinea pig sort of thing to show people, you know, how it's done the first time.
Well, particularly I'm interested in knowing how you can do something long distance that you indicated when we talked was just as effective as if we were in the same room together. So I'm really curious about how that would be possible.
Yeah, excellent. Well, as you know, I asked for your signature, which I printed after you had emailed it to me. And the signature connects me to you. Your signature is just something that I can connect to. So dowsers will always connect to something in order for them to ask questions and get the answers to their questions. So obviously what I do is gather that information based on connecting with your signature. And the information I'm looking for is, because we work with a body-mind connection, so we understand that our emotional states create and change our physiology in our body. So also our cells in our body carry the memory of everything and anything that's gone on in our life. But also because we are energetic beings, we are connected to everything else around us, and everything else around us affects us. So I'm not just looking at emotions, I'm looking at also environmental things that could impact. And I'm looking at a holistic approach with people on their emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual levels. So if one aspect is out, it throws out the other.
Right.
So what I did was I asked permission to enter your energy field to do a healing session for you, which was a 1-hour session where I work with a body chart with your hand that goes under it. So the body chart is representing you, so to speak, and your physical body is not there. Now the body chart has acupuncture points on it. So when the physical body is there, obviously we touch the physical body and touch these acupuncture, these highly charged energy centers, because that is your body's communication system. So although I'm working with gathering the information from your energy field, because I don't know if you know, energy healers are trained to work with understanding the anatomy of the energy field as opposed to the physical body.
I'm learning here, so I'm just going to keep listening and let you. The one point I do want to ask you to clarify, though, and I think that the life alignment part is the new thing that I've never heard of before, and I've several people that I'm associated with that understand this area way better than I do, particularly my massage therapist, who I've been going to for 10 years. That was the one part she didn't get either. So as you're going through that, maybe you can just explain how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, life alignment is a healing modality developed by Dr. Jeff Levine. And Dr. Jeff Levine put together this system of healing, which is now in quite a few countries around the world. I can't remember at the last count how many it is, but I would say at a guess about 19 countries. If we go to the website, we can actually count how many countries, because all the flags are up and all the countries are up. But in fact, life alignment is in the United States.
Okay.
And it is being taught in university, in a university in the States. So yeah, it's not something that is widely advertised. So it is very much like a word of mouth kind of, it's spread by word of mouth. And I suppose that's why you haven't heard about it. You know, I don't know that our type of healing modality isn't supported to promote by governments to make people aware that these options are there for them, because it doesn't make money to the government. So this healing system anyway, we discussed it a little bit on the Blab, so maybe that recording can get there, because obviously the purpose of this is to show people, you know, how we gather the information and decipher what has come up. So that you know, if you're wanting to know more about that, people can explore the website. We have a website, which is www.life-alignment.com.
Okay.
And that website is very informative and tells you everything and anything you need to know about the system of life alignment, because under the umbrella of life alignment are other areas of specialization, which I won't go into, but certainly happy to discuss any of those at a later stage. And we can talk about home alignment, we can talk about business alignment, and it goes on. So this is just one area of specialization, which is working with finding out these emotional issues. So the emotions lead us to the story. So what I did was I wrote down what the body points were, but I don't always like to give the client the body points, because those body points are multi-dimensional points which show us that it's not just on a physical level, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual as well. So I don't want to scare people when I give them body points and say, well, all your brain points come up, and they think, oh my God, what's wrong with my brain? Because it's not like that. It's just seeing the body as a communication system, that nothing is separate. We aren't separate from everything else either, and your body doesn't work separately. Everything works together. Yeah.
That makes sense. Just curious that you're able to deduce all this simply from my printed name and my signature.
Well, I am so fascinated by this even 15, 16 years later into doing it. So that's why I'm so excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't use more than 10% of our brain. We use less than 10% of our brain. And so
sometimes I think it's like 5.
Well, probably you're about right on average. So let's just have a look at the report that I sent you and see if we can make some sense of it, shall we?
Sure. I'm just going to put in the Life Alignment web address in the chat box and make sure I got it right.
www.life-alignment.com. That's right.
Okay,
that's
good.
So, and you can also put mine up as well if you like.
Sure.
And mine is going to take me to my personal website, which is www.christinehardy.co.za. If there was anything in particular that was concerning you, and initially you said no, and then a bit later you said yes. Well, actually, people around me, their health, loved ones, people I care about, not being well. That's correct?
Yeah, that's very correct.
You cancer?
Primarily, yes. And I'm talking very close people, some very minor, some a lot worse than that. Yeah. And it almost feels like everybody around me that I care about has got issues or has had issues in the recent past. And I'm the one that's missing. So I feel like I'm dodging bullets.
Yes. It's quite a scary thing, isn't it, to have so many people around you that have got life-threatening health issues.
Yeah, and you talk about the balance of the different points. I'm a very big believer that balance in life is an important thing, and that when you get out of balance, primarily, I have been out of balance financially, both positively and negatively, and been able to bring it all back somewhat into alignment. And there's a long story there, which I won't bore everybody with. But because of that, I'm a believer in, and just another segue is that my background was in health insurance, which here in the United States is not nationalized, so everyone kind of is fending for themselves. And so I know a lot about the process of the way the medical profession operates, and I've been for years telling people that they needed to be their own doctor and that those people were nothing more than consultants. And to this day, that message is not getting through, and they're just buying into protocols that I think are more dangerous than what they're trying to cure. So I see that happening. I feel very frustrated by it, and that's probably one of my biggest disconnects for the way life is going for me right now, because more and more people are facing these problems, and I feel ill-equipped to help them break their mindset around the way they're dealing with it.
Yes. One that feels helpless, don't they?
Well, not only that, they're the deer in the headlights. It's like, bingo, and they don't think that they have any control, and that they're ceding control to a doctor who has nothing to do with it. And it's really, really distressing for me to watch it.
So that's why, Bob, you're passionate, as well as Mike Warren is, to get these kind of healing modalities out to the general public for educational purposes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's more to it than just, well, there's a lot to it. I think you hit on all the points that I've been talking about for a long time. So, and we actually started a company 3 years ago called Balanced Life Team, which we kind of put on the back burner, and now we're bringing it back to the front burner later on today, actually. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, I'm all for that. So let's go ahead, because you might find it interesting what emerges from our discussion.
Sure, absolutely.
So, like I say, the body points, just to go over them briefly, there weren't a lot. Physical body, so obviously, you know, all of this stuff affects the physical body. The etheric body, which is something that's non-physical. It's part of the energy field. It's the fourth layer of your energy field. And information stays there. And then the emotional body came up as well. So this might just tell me that your whatever this story is about, it might not even be directly your story, but indirectly impacting you. It could be someone else's story that you love and you care about. So that's why you need the facilitator to help you through understanding what it is that's coming up, because these words are just story pointers to lead us to see what we were focusing on, or what the body wanted you to focus on for this particular session. So when we look at our life, sometimes it can be overwhelming because there's just so much going on. Where do we start? So what we do is we look for the root cause of something, where that was a trigger for many other things in your life. So imagine, like, have you ever played dominoes, where you've got all the dominoes stacked up and you just push that, they all go collapsing down. We'll see our emotional state a bit like that, that you get to the root cause and then it has a domino effect on everything else that has an emotional charge to it that's happened since that time. So often we have to go back to a particular time frame rather than dealing with current stuff, because you go back to that and that's a trigger for what you're dealing with currently anyway. So initially, especially as I haven't met you and seen you and done a one-on-one with you, and I don't know you very well, it's just going to take a little bit of questioning to get through to understand what these words mean. And my questioning might help you to understand that.
Okay, great. All right.
So we had the first word that came up was wishing. And then we had the word grumble. And these two words have an impact on trust. The area of life that's been impacted is trust. But the time frame we're going to is only going back a few months. It's going back to February this year.
Right.
So the secret is here, when you get a report and you're looking at this, is you take your memory and your mind back to inquire, what was going on in my life in February 2016? And that's sometimes a bit tricky because we can't even remember what we did last week. but the words help you to focus. So again, this might be a pattern because it's linked to karma. So again, karma we know is the law of cause and effect. So if we think about, for example, wishing, what we are thinking about, we're also bringing about in our life. Right. So we're wishing. So in your case, for example, you might be wishing that your friends that you love and care about are going to get well and get help and seek help, or find a way of moving away from the traditional allopathic way of looking at their health and seek other methods that can help to work together with that. It's never, I don't think, a matter of either or. We want to speed up one's healing by working together with other healing modalities, because you never get rid of cellulite, for example, with just one using a cream. You've got to exercise, you've got to detox your system, you've got to do certain things in conjunction and simultaneously to get rid of cellulite. So just using that as an example, can you think of anything that might link in with these words that this is getting you to have a look at?
When I looked at it over the weekend, I couldn't. But since we've been on this call, it just clicked what it was. And it's right back to that root cause that I have about people around me who have health issues, and me feeling helpless and trying to help get them to not just buy into, which I think are draconian solutions to minor problems. And this one was very personal to me because it was my aunt, who is turning 98 in July, and she was my mother's older sister. My mother passed away 2 years ago. So I hadn't seen her in a long time, and I was scheduled to go to Florida to play golf with a buddy of mine, and she lives in Florida, so I was making plans to visit her to make sure that I, had a chance to see her. Who knows the next time I'm going to get there. I get to Florida once every 20 years, and I don't think she's going to make it another 20 years, so we'll see. And as I was preparing for the trip, it was discovered that she had some mouth cancer, squamous cell mouth cancer in her upper lip. And so I've already been down the road with my mother having a diagnosis late in life and saying, I don't think it's a good idea to put you through draconian, solutions that are going to detract from the rest of the life that you have. If you're not in pain, then why bother? And she had discovered that she had lung cancer, and she did die within a few months after that, but she never had any pain. But anyway, this is a very minor incidence of cancer, and a friend of mine, my best friend, who's another one who's suffering from cancer, is a dentist, and he's an oral surgeon, and he had told me that losing teeth, especially opposing teeth, is kind of a death sentence, and that as long as you have some opposing teeth, natural teeth, you have a chance to live a long life. So the solution that my cousin, who was helping her decide what to do, was they were considering extracting all of her upper teeth to deal with this squamous thing. And I said, I just don't understand why you're doing something like that. I'm not going to step in the middle. Please call my friend. He's an oral surgeon. He'll explain to you what you should and shouldn't do, or what you should consider. And I would suggest that you do the minimum, not the maximum.
Absolutely.
He never called. They went ahead and not only took out the area that she was having a problem with, all of her upper teeth. And their younger sister was just there a couple of weeks ago, and I talked with her yesterday, and of course she's having issues. She's got inflammation in her gums. They put a temporary set of teeth in that don't work. She can't eat. All the things that I knew were going to happen. It was so obvious to me that it was, but I'm here and they're there, and I couldn't get them to consider anything other than this draconian process. that's where my trust issue came up, because they obviously didn't trust me enough to even investigate something that I felt was really an important thing for them to pursue. And I've been distressed from it ever since.
I understand that 100%. And also what I picked up and wrote down on your report is a belief system: I lack faith.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
So in relation to the story, you're lacking faith in the advice that's being given to, in this case, to extract all the teeth, when you were told by your dentist that it's not a good idea, which it isn't a good idea to do that at all. I 100% agree with that. Your teeth are actually connected to certain organs in your body, so it makes sense that you would be very careful. In fact, we dowse to find out which teeth can come out first and in what order.
Yeah.
It's fine-tuned exactly like that. Yeah, that's what.
I don't understand the part about me not having faith. I had complete faith. It was me being unsuccessful in getting them to open up their minds to something other than the worst possible way to deal with it. And they did the worst possible thing.
Misunderstanding here. I think what I meant was the lacking faith in the advice, the medical advice that was given.
Oh, the one they got. Oh God, yeah, I had no faith in that.
No, that's what I meant.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and also it's a two-way thing here, because they were lacking faith in the advice that you were giving them.
It boils down to this issue. I'm dealing with a professional who's been through medical school. This is what they're telling me, and why should I not listen? Why should I think that there is a potential other way of dealing with it? The fact that she's 98 years old, the fact that she was in good health did enter into it, because they took the most aggressive Western protocol to deal with it. And that's where the rubber hits the road. I think we actually talked about this previously, where we've got a monumental educational process that has to occur to be able to expand beyond this, the professional knows best approach to a medical advice. And I disagree with it completely. So my faith is not there at all. I disagree. And I think that they hurt people more than they help them.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have discussed this. These words make sense to you now, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I didn't get it when I saw what you sent me. I go, okay, I'm looking forward to figuring out what you meant by all this. Right?
That's it. That's why it's so important to have the Skype call.
Yeah.
In fact, even if we didn't have the Skype call, it is not necessarily important for you to understand what's imbalanced. But isn't it interesting? Because healing doesn't take place on a mental construct at all. So the shifts and that would have taken place without you having the conscious awareness. But isn't it more interesting and more empowering to know what has been balanced? And then you will be even more consciously aware of the emotional triggers that has for you, and if that over time you start to notice if that emotional charge becomes lessened in some way and you emotionally cope with it a bit better or in a different way.
Well, I agree, and one of the reasons why I like Mike Warren so much is that we share the same attitude, and we're not alone, obviously, so we're looking for ways, and I keep prodding him because I see him, and you too now that I've known you, as thought leaders in this area, and that if I can help spread the word and get information that's bite-sized pieces that we can give people that will, like the breadcrumbs in Hansel and Gretel, take them to the promised land. They're not going to get there in one big leap. You got to give them little pieces that are building blocks to get them to the promised land, so to speak.
And the thing is, you've used Hansel and Gretel, but the crumbs lead the children to the witch. And I'm not a witch, okay?
Okay, I thought that was, I have to admit, I thought it's been a few years since I did Hansel and Gretel. I thought it was what he left there to get home, so I'm wrong.
But my brother-in-law calls me a witch, but I'm not a witch.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad to know that.
Maybe in my past life, but anyway. Okay, so now we can move on from this now because I think we're happy that those words make sense. And by the way, what I'm doing while I'm talking to you is I'm checking out if what you're saying is connected to the story. And maybe you'd like to know how I do that.
Please do.
Okay, so while you're talking to me, I'm dowsing for the information. I've got a pendulum in my hand.
Maybe I should put my glasses on here. Okay.
Have you seen one of these before?
No.
Do you know what a pendulum is used for?
No, not really.
Okay, have you heard of dowsing tools, like when you dowse for looking for water underground and missing objects and things like that?
Uh-huh.
You haven't. Well, okay, so
I'm a city boy. I don't get any of that stuff.
A lot of people won't understand that either, but dowsing tools have been used since biblical times.
Yeah, sure.
To find water underground and things like that. And today, dowsing is still used in remote places to find water that is underground. So anything that's underground, minerals and things like that, can be found through dowsing. So there are people who are trained to just do only that. So dowsers normally will have an area of specialization within their dowsing. So my area of specialization is obviously in health issues. So, and the emotional issues that are attached to it. So while you're talking to me, I'm checking out all the time with my pendulum. And basically what a pendulum does is just gives you yes and no answers. So at the moment it's in neutral, and if I want my pendulum to is indicating a yes, it will go clockwise. I put it back into neutral, and if it's showing me a no, it will go anti-clockwise. So I don't need to look at my pendulum. While you're talking to me, I've got my pendulum down by the side, and it's giving me yes and no answers while you're talking. Isn't that amazing?
It is, yeah.
That is just so amazing. But basically, it's just
so tell me, what were you getting on the pendulum while I was talking?
Basically, while you were talking, I was connecting. It was telling me that, yes, we were on the right track with the story. Because if we weren't, I wouldn't let you go on about it and talk about it and waste time. Right. I'd say, it doesn't seem as this is related. What else was going on at that time?
Right.
It's not always the intention that you set to do a healing is what comes up. So you've got to interrogate and check it out by asking the questions.
So I'll just tell you, and this is probably stupid for me to even say this now, but what I was thinking about, the issue was that I've been struggling with my golf game for the longest time. I'm talking years now. And that, right, okay. Anyway, I figured it out right about then, right, because I was going to play golf and then I was going to see my aunt. So only when we started talking did I realize it was my aunt that was the issue, not my golf.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so on to the second balance, because I did with the two priorities. The second one was to do with your solar plexus. Now, with energy healing, we know that the solar plexus has a lot to do with self-empowerment, self-esteem, and all of that type of thing. Okay, typically solar plexus. Obviously, it links to other things that are physical as well. So we'll just see what this story is about, if we can. Not much information came through. I didn't get a lot of words come through, funnily enough. I only had one word that came through, and that was whole, W-H-O-L-E, whole. So whole could be, are we feeling whole? Have we got the whole story? It could mean so many things, but let's have a look and go a little bit further. The area of life that was impacted here is self-identity, and I thought that was interesting because the solar plexus, dealing with self-esteem, self-worth, and all of that, self-identity was the area of life that was impacted. And now this time frame is going back 2 years ago to August 2014. So again, it's now a need to reflect what was going on 2 years ago, 2014, August 2014.
Yeah.
Or around 2014.
The only thing that came up was that I had been very successful financially and sold the company. I'm giving you a little bit of background here. Sold the company, got quite a bit of money, and started investing in real estate. And then when the financial downturn occurred, I found out the hard way that the assets could reduce in value, but the liens or the loans against them, they don't. And so I went from having several $1 million in equity to zero overnight. And I went through a very stressful period figuring out what to do. And it was accepting that I had to start all over again, essentially. And in 2014, my mother died, and I inherited enough money to put myself in a position where I had not a lot of money, but I had enough to be able to feel like I was in control of my financial part of my life again, to an extent, if I was diligent, careful, and probably still not as good at managing my own money as I'd like to be. But anyway, so I felt like I was myself again after a very long period of time where I was struggling, trying to find the answer. And we can go into the Balanced Life team and all the rest, but a lot of the Balanced Life team passion that I have is trying to help other people overcome what I was able to overcome, but I was lucky at the same time, and not everybody's as lucky as I was to be able to feel myself. So I mean, the last 2 years I've been recovering Bob again, and I'd lost him for a long time.
So the time frame all fits in with the impact of that and how it impacted your sense of self, because don't we, unfortunately, rightly or wrongly, we feel good about ourselves when we are financially doing well. We equate a lot of our success to our financial status, whereas really we can be successful in many areas in our life. It doesn't have to be just financial, but somehow I think, again, it's the conditioning of the society that we live in. Our sense of security comes from money. And so what did that do to your self-identity, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, Bob? I know it's personal.
I just went from searching to knowing what I was going to do, and that I didn't have to put all of my energy into money, and that I could follow other passions in my life, some of which relate to money, but not all. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but it was the beginning of the last 2 years where I went from being in search mode into now beyond the financial part. I don't have it under control, but the amount of time and energy I have to spend on it is way, way less. And I can really focus my energy on the things that I have passion for, a lot of which has been very recently stimulated by some books that I've been reading. And those books have really motivated me to only do the things that I'm passionate about. And I also had a seminal birthday a month ago, which really prompted me to start looking about how much time do I have left and what do I want to be spending that time on.
Excellent. So what you're telling me and what you're telling everyone else is that you had a good, valuable life lesson to learn from that experience. It helped you to reevaluate things.
Let's just say the last 10 years have been more life lessons than I ever thought I would be having at this stage in life.
Yeah. but that what seemed like adversity at the time actually turned out to get you to look at your values maybe in a different way?
I've always been very successful in finding the silver lining in every cloud. Believe me, I've had a lot of clouds, most of them related to health issues that my loved ones have had, and I've had to deal with them, some of them very severe early on in life. And I've been able to connect the dots between what that adversity did and how my life changed, and find the reason why it happened, and see the value. And I give you example after example of what I'm talking about in terms of being able to cope with adversity. And the one thing I've learned is that not everybody has that skill. And I'm very fortunate that I have it. And I think it was a learned experience from the fact that I had some adversity early on, and I learned how to deal with it then. And a lot of people go through life with never having adversity, and then when it does happen, they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I can give you examples of that as well, chapter and verse. And those are the scary ones. Those are the ones that I really wish I could help, but that I've discovered that I can't. I can't make people think differently than they think. Thinking is a learned experience, and if you haven't learned how to think, you're not going to change the way you think because somebody tries to explain it to you. You have to learn it on your own.
But it all boils down to how we perceive something. And that makes a big difference. We're all going to have experiences. We're all going to go through good phases and bad stages in our life. And it's how you cope with those challenging times that makes all the difference. And I think that boils down to also whether your personality type is a pessimist or you're an optimist. And, and you only have those two choices. How am I going to view this? And how can I find something that's good when I'm in the middle of all this cuck, as I think that's a good word to use. So there you go. I think it is. It's a matter of, well, sometimes you don't see it when you're in the middle of it, and that's why therapy like this helps, because it helps to see you through it and helps to let you have the opportunity to see it from another perspective and to have a shift in the way you view it. Because at the end of the day, it is those distorted perceptions of those challenges that we've had that then take on the sort of negative beliefs that carry you through for the rest of your life. And then you carry on attracting similar circumstances and you don't move through it.
Well, two things. One is that my natural optimism was severely challenged for a number of years before the time period of 2014, when finally I found the way to recover myself and be the optimist. And I know people who knew me said that I'd changed because I was beaten down a little bit by what the recession did to me. And I know that because I have coping skills, I always had a lot of belief in myself that I could overcome. And if I had a difficult time doing it, because the world changed kind of overnight, and especially here in the States, where a lot of fairly, the upper middle class workers of America have been displaced. If they're not in technology anymore, there's no high-paying jobs left, and so those people are really out there on a limb, and they don't know how to find their way back to the trunk. I have a passion to try and help them do that. I know I can't impact 90% of them, but I want to find the 10% that I can. So that's part of my passion. However, we're starting to run out of time, and what I'm interested in doing is connecting the dots here. You've made me, relate to a couple of different things in life, and certainly there's a lot of charged emotion about them. Where do we go from there?
Okay, so where we go from here is, first of all, most people want to know, well, what can I expect from this healing? So what? You've done this healing, you've brought to light some of these challenging, stressful times in my life. So all I can say to you is that this was just one session. I recommend that people have a minimum of 3 sessions and then see where it takes them, because it's like on a journey and you are unpeeling, I say, like the layers of an onion to get to the core. Okay, so you know, there'll be other stuff because you're 70, right? So you've had a whole life.
Yeah.
and there will be other things to work with. So what I do at this stage is I find out from the body when would be the most optimum time for you to receive another session, and we would continue, and then we would work with other things that pop up. So for you, the most optimum time would be 4 weeks, but also there's a modality which is something that you can do to empower yourself to keep your vibrations up. So like I said, we are vibrational. So what happens is when we're stressed, everything constricts and contracts. So our energy field contracts as well, which leaves us open and more vulnerable to other things that would impact us, you know, and that would create more triggers for us, whether it's our health-wise, emotional-wise, or whatever. So the whole idea is to keep our vibrations up, and we keep our vibrations up by being in good spirits. And we can't always be in good spirits, but you know, we're going to try, right? So tell me, do you like music?
I do. Not as much as I used to. I'm kind of a child of the 70s, and when the 80s occurred and disco hit, I stopped caring.
That's fine. That's what happens. I'm a 1950s child, and you know, I still love dancing to the 70s and the 80s music my best.
Yeah.
So that brings back memories of your youth, and you know, and all that. It makes you feel young again, doesn't it? It's like transporting back to that time and the memories and the happy memories of that time. So what's coming up to help support you is music. Now, music is vibrational as well, and it has an impact on our physiology. When we listen to music, it elicits a emotion in us. You know, if we listen to a sad song, it brings up a sad memory for us. You know, it can bring us to tears, and likewise, if we listen to something happy, it can lift us up and make us feel on top of the world. So music came up as a modality, and that's why I'm asking you, what does music mean for you, and how could that support you right now to keep your vibrations up between now and the next time we talk, if you choose to have another session?
Well, ironically, we have plans on July the 18th to go to Los Angeles to the Hollywood Bowl to see Sting and Peter Gabriel. So I'm already kind of clued into the music that I like, and we'll make, you know, an effort to travel to see something that makes me me happy. So we listen to music with dinner every night, and that's probably the full extent of it. I don't listen to it in the car. I'm more into information that I can get. But give me some thoughts that you have on how I can use music to keep the energy up, because I'm always into that.
Well, what is brilliant is that you're already doing what you're supposed to be doing. So you don't actually need to do anything else. You've already got it in place. But there are many people who aren't in tune with themselves and they haven't got it in place. You've got it in place. You see, quite often what happens, a modality will come up and people will say, but I've been thinking about doing that, but they haven't done it. But you doing it, you've planned it, you're doing it. So good on you. That's brilliant.
And neither of them are, well, I guess Peter Gabriel is kind of the 70s kind of guy who's still going. Sting's a little later than that. No, that's not true either. He was 70s too. Yeah, so I'm in the 70s. All right, well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Normally my chat session lasts not more than 30 minutes. I normally tell people we have a 20-minute Skype call, and then if they get the extra 20 minutes, it's fine. But obviously I don't encourage to talk because it's like an appointment, obviously, that is part of what the person is paying the service for. So they have an hour's healing, and then it's a 20-minute to 30-minute Skype call to just go over what came up. Do I need to ask you any more questions? No, actually I don't. I think we've got exactly the story that we needed to focus on. The mystery has been taken out of it for you, whereas initially you didn't know what these words meant, and now you do. You may still carry on processing for a while after a healing session, but this was already done on the 14th, and we're already the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already 5 days or so. So just tell me, how have you been feeling this last 5 days?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I didn't really look at it carefully till this morning. So even though it was in my inbox, I was looking for a time when I could really think about what you wrote. And I kind of got obsessed with the U.S. Open that was on all weekend. So I watched a lot more golf than did very little except play golf and watch golf. And so when I did look at it this morning, that's when I was questioning what your thoughts were. I think I looked at it briefly when I first got it, and I went, I'm going to have to think about this a little bit before I react. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, that's fine. Basically, what I get people to do after I've done a healing session on them is to tune into themselves and notice how are they feeling, because most of the time we're not tuned into ourselves. We're not really noticing how we're feeling in any given moment. We just deal with one stress after another and we sweep it under the carpet.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is to get people to notice how they're feeling. So perhaps if you decide to have another session somewhere along the line, you might see what comes up in that session and then be more tuned in, because now you know what to expect when you read those words. And I always like to connect with the person as soon after as possible I've done the balance. Okay. So I like to do the balance and either speak to them the same day or speak to them a day or two later, because then I can say to them, okay, we've just done the balance. Now notice if there are any shifts, and those shifts can be small shifts, little shifts, it doesn't matter what they are. It might not be something big, but it's to notice those little changes in yourself. Sometimes you don't even notice them in yourself. It's other people that are close to you that notice. And they say, well, why you look different? Like, what is different about you? Like, people's faces start to light up. They start to look lighter because they're becoming less burdened, and they change. Sometimes I see people's faces change within the hour after I've worked with them. Mm-hmm. And the physical body changes as well. So amazing things can happen very quick, almost simultaneously, and other times it takes longer for people. So everyone's different in the way they download and process the information that comes through. But it's been an interesting thing, hasn't it? It's been an interesting exercise. Have you found it interesting?
Yeah, very much so. I guess the question that I have to ask, just from a, how we're going to use this material perspective, is, do you expect that we should do more so that we can create the full story, or do you think we've done enough that we could, create the story for Mike's audience?
No, I think we've done enough for that purpose, which was the purpose of doing this and sharing it with others, like especially as I've never met you before, to know anything about your personal life or anything like that. It's showing people that this can be done and it's achievable. And the only thing is, obviously, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to share a series of events by working with this over 3 or 4 months. You might start to see things are changing, and then those are the type of things we cannot share so easily with the public. But everyone has their own unique experience, and I think we can talk about this as much as you like. It's not the same as experiencing it for yourself. Mm. And aren't we lucky to have this technology to connect like this?
No question about it. It's a new world for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm fortunate to be in that point in my life where I do have time to stay in touch with myself. I think I've shared enough with you to know that I'm already doing a lot of what you suggest. I'm hopeful that I'll find even more as I go forward here, because I'm at that point where my motivations have definitely become much more focused, and I tend to follow my passions, and making those commitments, I expect, is going to really turn into something pretty powerful in the long run. I mean, I have some very big plans, and I hope I have enough time to succeed in making them all come to pass. And I'm not young anymore, so I think that I can be a good role model for other people to not stop living and not giving up on hope, because I have it, and I want to be able to help people find their own.
Well, when we lose our passion, there's a spark in us that's not there anymore. So I think we are very blessed to have these goals and things that inspire us to move forward, and that's what keeps you young.
Agreed. Totally agree.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you, and I suppose what we're going to do now is just close up, and then you will take a look at this and see how you're going to put it together and how you're going to share it with others to make it available for them to see that there are other choices and routes that they can take with their well-being.
I'm hopeful. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'll share it with you and a few other people, have you review it and give me your thoughts on which parts you felt, really reflect on the message that you can bring to people. And it's perhaps I'm not the best person to have been the guinea pig here. I don't know.
You don't have to have serious issues to do this work. It's about keeping your life in balance, as we said earlier. The frustration of seeing that people aren't doing what they're needing to do to keep their life in balance. And some people will do this just because they're wanting to keep their life in balance, not because they've got to the state already of having an incurable disease. But if someone already is in that state, they can be supported as well. So this type of healing modality can help everyone and anyone, irrelevant of where they are in their life right now.
Okay. Well, it's a message that I certainly will want to support, because I believe that there's many different ways to heal people. And this is a unique experience to do something long distance. And that's why I was particularly intrigued to see how you actually can do something like that. But before I go, and I do need to wrap it up, is the process faster or more deep if you were in the same location or not? Is it exactly the same?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah, except, of course, emotions well up easier and quicker when you're not on camera.
Mm-hmm.
So, for someone who was, having quite serious emotional stress about loved ones, that would well up emotions for them, so they would possibly release those emotions while they're on the therapy bed. But I've also known people who have cried when I've given them the report because they realize, but everyone's different, like I say, but you can't capture always that. It's different for everyone, because everyone is different in the way they show their emotions.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for your time and everything. I look forward to whatever you put together and seeing it.
Thank you so much. This was quite enjoyable and pleasurable, and I look forward to more opportunities to engage with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye now.
Good night. You're having a good day.
All right. Thank you. Good night to you.
Bye.